Hello everyone, Burley here. Today I am going to be showing you guys a team that I built this week. And as usual, I have the rental code. I will also have the poker paste in the description and also a timestamp for when the games actually start. So let's talk about the team first. We have the Cinderace, the Zapdos, Urshifu, and Tapu Fini, which are pretty standard, so I'm not going to talk too much about them. The Cinderace is Focus Sash. I got the Sash Counter tech that is pretty good against a lot of physical threats. Zapdos is 3 attacks Roost with Thunderbolt, Heat Wave, and Hurricane. Heat Wave Zapdos was pretty necessary here because I felt pretty weak to Ferrothorn and other steel types as is, despite the fact that I already also have a Cinderace. I do also have an Urshifu, but those Pokemon not exactly the best switch-ins to the Ferrothorn Body Press, so they aren't very good long-term responses in a switch-heavy cycle gameplay. So, and Tapu Fini has a bit of an interesting set. I have the Taunt and the Nature's Madness, which is really good at chipping down opposing threats and denying Stealth Rock, Yawn, all that kind of stuff. Stealth Rock really denial very important because I indeed have two things weak to Stealth Rock, Cinderace and Zapdos. I also have uh, Mamoswine and Magnezone, which are invested on in bulk specifically to live certain things, and that's going to be a bit more difficult with Stealth Rock in play. And instead of having two stab moves, Surf and Moonblast, which is pretty standard for Tapu Fini because it has such great neutral coverage against everything. That's one of the things that makes Tapu Fini so difficult to deal with. Instead, I have Ice Beam, and that Ice Beam is because I wanted to have some extra insurance against Landorus T. If I Dynamax with my Tapu Fini against opposing Dynamax Landorus, if I just have Surf or Scald, that is not going to be enough with the Max Quake boosting its special defense on the Landorus side. The interesting Pokemon on the team are definitely Magnezone and Mamoswine. Magnezone, uh, especially with the weakness policy analytics set, that is not very standard on Magnezone. Usually you will see things like Custard Berry, which synergizes well with the sturdy ability on Magnezone. But I had a lot of great success with this specific set when I was having a good streak on the BSS Smogon tournaments. And I like the set especially because it has some sneaky good matchups. It's bulk invested in order to survive Cinderace max fireballs. It also takes Zapdos max flares pretty easily, and it KOs back with the fact that its attacks are both weakness policy and analytic boosted. Does tons of damage without too much investment. On top of that, it's got the body press iron defense combo, which makes it have some good defensive utility as well. It is pretty bulky with the Dynamax and the Max Steel Spike boosting its physical defense. And on top of that, it can take advantage of those defense boosts with an immediate body press without having to go for the iron defense. So there's a lot of synergy there. The Magnezone set unfortunately does rely quite a bit on the Dynamax. When it does go for it, it is pretty good at that. Finally, Mamoswine is going to be my ground type of choice on this team. I do need something to deny opposing Volt switches. Thunderous T could be a potentially very big pain there. If not for the Mamoswine, I have the Assault Vest plus Thick Fat, and that is going to let me take on opposing Zapdos in addition to Landorus. It's got some great offensive type coverage with just Earthquake and Icicle Spear. And finally, Fissure is just some way to bust through defensive stall teams. So my opponent has a pretty aggressive team with the Blaziken and the Landorus. So there's a few things I need to worry about, which is first is the Ninetales lead. So that's why I lead with the Cinderace in order to stop them from going for the easy 8-turn Veil on turn 1. The next pressing concern is the opponent's Landorus T. That forces me to bring either the Mamoswine or the Tapu Fini. Unfortunately, with the current Tapu Fini set, it comes with the side effect of losing to Blaziken, which you should, I do resist both of its stabs, but I don't have the water move to hit it. So, quite a tragedy, but I would rather lose to Blaziken than lose to Landorus T. Unfortunately, for my opponent, he has both of them, so that means that I am going to be probably using the Mamoswine to check the Landorus T. Finally, the Magnezone. I brought that in order to check a lot of the opposing team with damage. That lets me check Nihilego and Mimikyu, for example. But on top of that, I could actually win the 1v1 with the weakness policy against Blaziken. And if I can get that off, that would be a huge deal. My opponent leads off with the Nihilego against my Cinderace. I do have to Focus Sash, and I end up thinking I'll just go for the Sucker Punch here. I'm not sure it was a really great play on my side. I kind of just clicked it almost without thinking much, which is never a good sign, but I am definitely getting into the ladder. I haven't laddered too much recently, so he goes for the Stealth Rock. Not the most common move on Nihilego, but on Nihilego that leads, Stealth Rock isn't the most out there thing, so totally reasonable move for him to go for. It's quite unfortunate that I don't have the high jump kick or the Iron Head, which would have 2-hit KO'd or 1-hit KO'd the Nihilego, respectively. But I will take the damage that I can get. And Sucker Punch should be doing a bit more than the resisted Pyro Ball, but not by much. Because resisted Pyro Ball is 60 base power, Sucker Punch is 70. And that did less than half, even after the burn damage. So yeah, and unfortunately for me, I don't get that KO. And I definitely pay for the turn 1 Sucker Punch mistake by having my opponent's Nihilego get the Stealth Rock up, and on top of that, also get the Beast Boost. That means that but with the Nihilego at such low health, I am just going to bring my Mamoswine in and just revenge kill it with Ice Shard. Mamoswine, its priority definitely coming in handy here. And I will force my opponent to bring whatever he has in the back to force him to reveal his second Pokemon. He had quite a bit of offensive Pokemon mainly. No, like, even Ninetales that is more of a supportive threat, they don't exactly switch in very well. So here I just go for the Earthquake on the Mamoswine. As I said, at this point I was thinking I had a better chance of going for the Magnezone Dynamax, which definitely lives that Blaziken stab moves and fires off the weakness policy boosted Max Lightnings. So here I go for the plain Earthquake. I thought it's just okay if I get the KO, as I am pretty slow on the Mamoswine, but he doesn't know this and he goes for the Max Guard. And this is when I realized that Mamoswine with my Thick Fat ability and Max Knuckle being low base power, I actually have a good chance of just surviving this Blaziken hit, and I actually KO back. If the Blaziken had Focus Sash, that could definitely be a problem, but I don't think he had Focus Sash, because if he had Focus Sash, there is no way he doesn't go for the close combat on that previous turn. And Dynamaxing Blazikens generally don't go for Focus Sash, because, I mean, Blaziken is a pretty good Dynamax user, but Focus Sash, Dynamax don't really have great synergy together. But Mamoswine is very strong. It just one-shots the Dynamax Blaziken thanks to it not having the Focus Sash. And if the thing is, Max Knuckle does way less damage than Close Combat here, and that is a big deal because Mamoswine lived that with plenty of health left. So big here, my opponent brings out Raikou as his third Pokemon, and if he got the Close Combat off of me, that would have done way more. I probably wouldn't be able to live the Scald from this Raikou, and Magnezone versus Raikou, not exactly the best matchup. Especially if he gets the Scald Burn as I go for the Body Press, that would be really bad. But with the Mamoswine, with the Assault Vest, and the Max Quake special defense boosts, that is not KOing at the slightest. And I just take him out. Mamoswine gets 3 kills on the opponent. Pretty good start there. My second opponent has a Volcarona team. He has some Clefable with the Baton Pass potentially on the Vaporeon, so that is definitely one thing I need to watch out for. I do see that Tapu Fini has an amazing matchup on this team. I am able to check Salamence and Zapdos with my Fini. And the one bad matchup, Nihilego, I am able to bring Magnezone against it. And definitely the big problem Pokemon for me on the opposing side is the Volcarona, so which is why I lead with the Mamoswine. And if he leads with anything that can put any significant chip damage on my Mamoswine, I'm switching right out, because I definitely need that at full health and not waste my Dynamax too. So that way, I'm gonna keep my Mamoswine at full health until he reveals all 3 of his Pokemon and reveals that he either brings in the Volcarona and tries to go for the sweep, or he reveals that he didn't bring his Volcarona for whatever reason. Volcarona, like, it is one of those all-in Pokemon, so even though it does have a good matchup, there is definitely a chance that my opponent didn't bring it. He leads with the Vaporeon, which is a very good matchup against this Mamoswine. I don't want to get Scald Burned, and even if I don't get Scald Burned, I don't want to take that damage and potentially just lose against Volcarona so easily. And fortunately for me, Tapu Fini with its Misty Terrain is going to prevent any burns. And it just, Vaporeon has not a whole lot it can do against Fini for sure. It blocks Yawns, it has Taunt to stop Baton Pass. And Vaporeon is pretty helpless here. And there's one move that Vaporeon can use to get the advantage here, and that is exactly Flip Turn. So he read the fact that, I mean, he didn't even have to read that. If I stayed in with the Mamoswine, Flip Turn was gonna chip my Mamoswine down quite a bit, significantly, not affected by the Assault Vest. So a great mid-ground play. If I stay in with the Mamoswine, I still don't gain a whole lot. But this way, he gains the momentum with the Flip Turn on the top of any. And in fact, my two main answers to Vaporeon are Zapdos and Fini, and his Nihilego Bring counters both of them exactly. So definitely a well thought out selection there, despite the fact that Vaporeon not exactly the most common choice for a team. But I am able to bring in my Magnezone safely against the Poison type move. If he went for the Meteor Beam, that could have been a bit risky, but Nihilego definitely still weak to water. If I am some kind of offensive set, I could have gone for some Max Geysers, so I guess he didn't want to risk that totally. And I just go for the regular Flash Cannon. I don't want to just expend my Dynamax so hastily. As I said, I do want to save my Dynamax for my Mamoswine in case my opponent is going to Dynamax the Volcarona. So he stays in and fires off a Meteor Beam that still does a chunk. Magnezone, pretty bulky, but its special defense leaves a bit more to be desired. And Nihilego with +1, really strong, so not too surprising there. And but still I'm gonna avoid the 2-hit KO there, and I will definitely 2-hit KO back. And I wonder what he's going to do. If he has Power Gem, that'd be doing a bit more damage than the Thunderbolt, but he just has Thunderbolt. And that means that, yeah, that does make sense, because he still needs Sludge Bomb. And not have Acid Spray be his strongest poison type move. And if he has also has Power Gem, that means that he has 2 rock type moves and 2 poison type moves, and no coverage whatsoever. And that's not very good. So he is going to sack his Nihilego here and do a lot of damage against my Magnezone, and he will get to bring something in for free. And a Volcarona switch in could be deadly here, and I am glad I have my Mamoswine in the back. And it turns out that his free switch in is Vaporeon, and that makes a lot of sense. Like, I was wondering exactly why he was taking so long. If he had Volcarona, that would be a perfect time to bring it in. My Thunderbolt against, he could cover the hints against my Thunderbolt, and that would be a very good situation for him. But he brought in Vaporeon, and that is 100% because he doesn't have a good answer to Magnezone, even at 30%-ish. So that's why he went for the Vaporeon bring, and he goes for the Yawn. I did have the Mystic Terrain active just now, but the way Yawn interacts with Mystic Terrain means that I still can get drowsy under Mystic Terrain, and this turn, because the terrain ran out, I would be falling asleep. I don't want to fall asleep against the top Vaporeon. That would be a great way for me to lose the game here. And that is exactly why I am just going to go into the top Finny, deny any potential yawns, knowing that he will probably go for the flip turn, right? So he will get his momentum, but he already lost his Nihilego, and let's see if he has a second Finny check. And the answer is decidedly no. Well, Clefable can boost up on Tapu Fini, certain Tapu Fini sets. So for example, if I have a Calm Mind Fini against the Calm Mind Unaware Clefable, Clefable would win that matchup 1v1, but yeah, and he does have the Calm Mind, as I suspected. Otherwise, like, there's no way he just lets go of the Nihilego after he saw the Finny, but he wants to cover at least some Tapu Fini sets. But here I have the Taunt Nature's Madness set, and that is going to deny Clefable entirely with the Taunt, denying the Calm Mind, and Nature's Madness just mowing straight through its bulk. So he is getting his special attack drops with the Moonblast. Does have the 30% chance for that to happen, but usually they're unaware. So I am thinking that he gets a crit special attack drop. Quite unfortunate, but I am thinking here that I can just go for the Moonblast and get the KO. And even if I don't, I can just taunt the next turn and go for more Moonblasts and kind of chip it down. don't want to risk Nature's Madness misses at this point anymore. I have the game pretty much locked up here. And I will take out the Vaporeon. No, not the Vaporeon. The Clefable with the Tapu Fini. But Vaporeon not KO'd yet, but it might as well be pretty soon. The two special attack drops coming into play now that my opponent is Vaporeon and not the unaware Clefable, so that's why I am gonna go for the taunt, deny any potential wish situations here. But my opponent did reveal Yawn and Flip Turn, so I guess his third and fourth moves could be Wish and Protect, but that would be no Scald Vaporeon, I guess. I'm just gonna sack my Magnezone here and reset my special attack on my Tapu Fini, and that would make sure that I win that 1v1 for sure. And he has Icy Wind, so that means that he is all out on the momentum situation. He doesn't have Wish Protect. Does make sense, because he definitely don't have too many Pokemon that likes switching in and out. Clefable is bulky, but it is definitely more of a I am just gonna sit and hunker down and keep boosting until the cows come home type of Pokemon. And so that's why he wants to go for the Yawn, the Icy Wind, and get the setup going there, I guess. But Magnezone will say no to that, and I will take this game as well. This has a really good matchup for Mamoswine. My opponent has Landorus and Heatran and Zapdos and Naganadel. All of them is Mamoswine food, and Urshifu is a bit of a problem, so that's why I automatically lock in Mamoswine plus Tapu Fini, so I have something to do against the Urshifu. And I'm going to bring Magnezone last. It's definitely been pretty good in the past few games. And on top of that, like, it's able to bait out certain problem Pokemon like Zapdos and Urshifu, Dynamax against them, and win 1v1. And that would be a really good situation for me. But he leads with the Heatran against my Mamoswine. And I definitely want to, whenever Heatran comes in, I want to stay awake, make sure that it doesn't have the air balloon. Because if I Earthquake into the air balloon, I'm going to look real downright silly. But this one doesn't have it, so I'm just going to Earthquake, and if he brings out the Landorus, or if he brings out the Zapdos, then so be it. Both of them are still very winning matchups for me, so I'm going to just go in and Hailstorm and do a ton of damage on the Zapdos. And the fact that you have to switch in Zapdos into a Mamoswine, that is never a good situation. But he does Dynamax, and that, honestly, even though it is a terrible play, because we know that our Mamoswine is Assault Vest, I can kind of understand why he goes for that, for sure, because like 90% of Mamoswine are Focus Sash, so if Focus Sash Mamoswines aren't going to Dynamax against it, and I'm just going to go for Icicle Spear and a nice Shard follow-up, and Dynamax Zapdos can live both of those hits and get him out of this jam that this Mamoswine has created. But no, I am thick fat Assault Vest, and that's so little damage. It is embarrassingly little damage for Zapdos. And that is Life Orb on top of that as well. Oh my god. Mamoswine is so good against Zapdos. And unfortunately for me, as I sing its praise, it was not strong enough to one-shot the Zapdos back. But that is fine. It did so little. I can take another one of that and be left comfortably around 60-70%-ish. And that's pretty amazing. he goes for the max guard. Totally understandable because he knows his Zapdos is lost. He wants to stall out my 3 turns of Dynamax at the very least, right? So he is going to get that wish. He will probably lose his Zapdos here. I don't get that play. I do have Ice Shard hand, so that is a dead Zapdos either way, and he is going to make sure that his Tapu Fini gets put into Earthquake range. So nice of him to do that. And I am going to go for the Max Hailstorm. That is an offensive Fini. Bulky Finis would take way less. And that means that Earthquake probably will KO him. And if it somehow low roll some, Ice Shard will definitely pick it off. And we actually saw all 3 of his Pokemon. It's Heatran, Tapu Fini, and Zapdos. So Mamoswine actually 3-0s this guy. Incredible. He goes for the Surf. So if it were like Specs Surf, that could have KO'd me, but no, that is probably a Scarf Tapu Fini set, which is pretty common on those type of teams. And Mamoswine is gonna get the 3-0 here. Quite the great game for Mamoswine. He brings in Zapdos. He just wants to wants to check that I am one of those 10% of Mamoswines that don't carry Ice Shard. But I mean, sorry to disappoint, man. I do have the Ice Shard, and he is gonna be forced to bring in Heatran. Actually, maybe bringing in the Heatran was probably the better call. In high, now he has seen quite a bit of my Mamoswine already. He knows it's very bulky Assault Vest, so he probably had better chance trying to outspeed my Mamoswine with his Heatran. But I mean, and he's just gonna forfeit like that. And good game. Mamoswine really pulling its weight here. I'm glad it got to perform so well as it did. Usually, a lot of times, sometimes when you bring some kind of an interesting niche pick, and if you don't get to bring it that often, it kind of sucks. But I'm glad Mamoswine got to showcase itself as a big threat. Alright, thank you guys for watching. Bye.